Okay, I am live. This is She That Exists, her story channel. This is a reading from the protocol to prevent the suppression and punish trafficking persons, especially women and children, supplementing the United Nations Convention against transnational organized crime. So the subject matter here is transnational organized crime, human trafficking, trafficking of persons, especially women and children, from the United Nations, 2000. Human trafficking is one of the elephants in the room and the main atrocity going on in humanity today in the corporation of the United States, as well as all over the world. It's a barbaric modern day slavery principle that the corporation of the United States has not ceased and is still profiting on today, as well as other corporate entities and other organizations, so to speak, in the entire world. So here we go. Protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children, supplementing the United Nations Convention against transnational organized crime. Organized meaning intentional, planned out, highly strategized, and organized. Preamble. The state parties to this protocol declaring that effective action to prevent and combat trafficking in persons, especially women and children, requires a comprehensive international approach in the countries of origin, transit, and destination that includes measures to prevent such trafficking, including by protecting their internationally recognized human rights. See my human rights video. Taking into account the fact that despite the existence of a variety of international instruments containing rules and practical measures to combat the exploitation of persons, especially women and children, there is no universal instrument that addresses all aspects of trafficking in persons. I've come to realize that for sure. Concerned that in the absence of such an instrument, persons who are vulnerable to trafficking will not be sufficiently protected. Recalling General Assembly Resolution 53-111 of 9 December 1998, in which the Assembly decided to establish an open-ended intergovernmental ad hoc committee for the purpose of elaborating a comprehensive international convention against transnational organized crime and of discussing the elaboration of, inter alia, an international instrument addressing trafficking in women and children. Convinced that supplementing the United Nations Convention against Transnational Organized Crime with an intentional instrument for the provision, suppression, and punishment of trafficking in persons, especially women and children, will be useful in preventing and combating that crime, have agreed as follows. General Provisions. Article 1. Relation with the United Nations Convention against Transnational Organized Crime. Number 1. The protocol supplements the United Nations Convention against Transnational Organized Crime. It shall be interpreted together with the convention. Number 2. The provisions of the convention shall apply. Mutatis mutandis. I have to look that up and see what that means. To this protocol, unless otherwise provided herein. Number 3. The offenses established in accordance with Article 5 of this protocol shall be regarded as offenses established in accordance with the convention. Article 2, Statement of Purpose. The purposes of this protocol are A, to prevent and combat trafficking in persons, paying particular attention to women and children. B, to protect and assist the victims of such trafficking with full respect for their human rights. And C, to promote cooperation among state parties in order to meet those objectives. Once again, see my video on human rights. Article 3, Use of terms. For the purposes of this protocol, this is the defining definition. A, trafficking in persons shall mean the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons by means of the threat or use of force or other forms of coercion, of abduction, of fraud, of deception, of the abuse of power, or of a position of vulnerability, or of the giving or receiving of payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over another person for the purpose of exploitation. Exploitation shall include, at a minimum, the exploitation of the prostitution of others or other forms of sexual exploitation, forced labor or services, slavery or practices similar to slavery, servitude, or the removal of organs. B, the consent of a victim of trafficking in persons to the extended exploitation set forth in subparagraph A of this article shall be irrelevant where any of the means set forth in subparagraph A have been used. C, the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of a child for the purpose of exploitation shall be considered trafficking in persons, even if this does not involve any of the means set forth in subparagraph A of this article. D, child shall mean any person under the age of 18 years of age. Article 4, scope of application. This protocol shall apply, except as otherwise stated herein, to the prevention, investigation, and prosecution of the offenses established in accordance with Article 5 of this protocol, where those offenses are transnational in nature and involve an organized criminal group, as well as to the protection of victims of such offenses. Article 5, criminalization. Number 1, each state party shall adopt such legislative and other measures as may be necessary to establish as criminal offenses the conduct set forth in Article 3 of this protocol when committed intentionally. 2, each state party shall also adopt such legislative and other measures as may be necessary to establish as criminal offenses. 2A, subject to the basic concepts of its legal system, attempting to commit an offense established in accordance with paragraph 1 of this article. B, participating as an accomplice in an offense established in accordance with paragraph 1 of this article. And C, organizing or directing other persons to commit an offense established in accordance with paragraph 1 of this article. This is part 1 of the protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children, supplementing the United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime. Part 2, coming soon, to be continued. Human trafficking awareness is mandatory. Mandatory awareness. Modern day slavery never ended. It just changed names, and it's right in front of our faces. It's right under our noses. And so that is part 1. And part 2 is on its way. Thank you for connecting. This is She That Exists, her story channel.